So if we're going to spend billions of dollars on something, would it not make more sense to save American lives to spend it here on healthcare than bombing another country overseas?
It's the job of the United States government.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to start saying American lives are specific, 47 people died, and this is worth going to war for, I would say 68,000 people die a year here, and that would be worth investing in as well.
By the way,
Leigh McGowan stepped onto the Abby Phillip CNN panel recently, facing off against MAGA loyalists Brad Todd and Lydia Moynihan, and things got a little spicy. Here's what that exposes: accountability meeting denial, facts challenged, yet someone refuses to back down. Leigh holds their feet to the fire, calmly, precisely, with reason on her side. Let's watch together. I'll share insights as we go, and I want to hear yours in the comments. Subscribe to Stand with Democracy.
Tonight, what exactly is the timeline for when this war with Iran will be over? So far, we've heard weeks, not months. We've heard soon. We've even heard that it's already over. But now Trump has a new answer for that question.
When it's over, and I don't think it's going to be long, when it's over, this is going to bounce right back so fast.
When are you going to know when it's over?
When I feel it.
Okay.
I feel it in my bones.
Feels it in his bones.
And COVID will be over by Easter.
How are the rest of us supposed to know?
yeah, I think the president needs to be more disciplined when he's doing these interviews and stay on message. I think when he's done videos where he's reading prompter, where he's sticking to his talking points, I think that's the most effective way. We need to hear him communicate more to the American people, but making kind of vague statements like that is not helpful. I understand, I think the argument they would make is that they don't want to telegraph a specific timeline to the enemy. But again, I think you can be a little bit more disciplined and on message than he was in that interview.
I mean, I think he plays pretty fast and loose with other people's lives and money. And I think that's where we are here. I think, he's always said things off the cuff. Like I was saying earlier, he said COVID would be done by Easter. That was just off his top of his head. He said he would know when things were bad based on his own morality, which made many of us nervous. I think that's the reason we go through Congress for wars, because if you're going to be spending our money and our lives in a conflict, it should go through our representatives, which it didn't. And now there's one person making these huge decisions for everyone, and he's doing it based on his bones.
And every day it's a little bit different. I mean, he was asked tonight by a reporter about he talks about unconditional surrender that he wants from Iran. What does that mean? Here's what he said.
Still expect unconditional surrender? What does that mean?
Well, to me, it means very simply that we are in a position of dominance that nobody's ever seen before. And whether or not they're able to say the words or whether or not they're able to even fight.
It's just so vague. And I think, you could argue right now we are in a position of incredible dominance over Iran. Could we end it today? Could we end it tomorrow? Where are we headed?
Well, we want Iran to be completely militarily decapitated, unable to export terror to the region and to Americans who live abroad and are threatened shipping lanes. We want Iran to not be a menace. They've been a menace for 47 years. Americans have paid for it with their lives every single decade under every president. That's where this ends, is a decapitated Iran.
I want to go back. How will we know that? Is it that when the Strait of Hormuz is opened again? Is it when they stopped sending off missiles? Is it? How will we even know? I think this is where there's a gap here between even for Iran to know, how do they stop this thing? Well, if they wanted to surrender, how would they surrender?
I don't want the president to outline exactly to Iran what his timeline is to get in, out, or do anything. But I will say, I don't think he should be answering questions every single day and multiple times a day. Joe Biden was nearly dead, and that's why we didn't see him for weeks at a time answer questions. Here we go again. And so I think President Trump should be a little more restrained in how often he speaks to the press about these things, and then do so deliberately and not on the tarmac of an airport.
But he's not. You all can talk about how you want him to be more disciplined and restrained, but he's never been that way. He never will be. We know who he is. And, he said unconditional surrender from the beginning. Everybody knows what unconditional surrender means. The Japanese gave us unconditional surrender of World War II. They capitulated. They quit. They stopped fighting. They gave up. That's not what's happening in Iran. It's not going to happen in Iran.
Unless we do the same thing to them.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
look,
we should not do, for the record.
Josh, let me ask you this, because Trump was asked about the objectives in the war and how it might compare to what Prime Minister Netanyahu wants. Here's what he said.
Regularly, are you speaking with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and are your objectives the same in terms of ending the war?
Well, I think they might be a little different, I guess. They're a different country than we are. But he will tell you there's never been a power like the power of the United States.
There you go.
How does that work? Are we running two parallel
I disagree
operations?
with both of you. I think Trump should keep talking, because we find out all sorts of interesting stuff all the time. And because the whole world is hanging on his every whim,
Yeah, I want to know what he's thinking. And what he did was acknowledge something that a lot of people have been reporting for a long time, which is that the U.S. and Israeli war objectives are diverging. And the longer this goes on, the more it seems that Trump wants to wrap it up and Bibi wants to keep going, okay? And that the Israelis have certain objectives in terms of what they want to see in a future Iran. And Trump doesn't care about those things necessarily. He cares about more narrow objectives of military, maybe nuclear objectives, but not total regime. That's a pretty big difference. That's not to say the two countries don't overlap or they don't fight well together or they're not great militaries who are great at shooting.
Isn't their objective both the same?
But Trump said it. So
no Hamas,
are you going to deny that U.S. and Israel have diverging views? Do you agree with Trump?
I think their two objectives are to eliminate Iran as the source of terror and mayhem in the Middle East. That's
how. So it's like if Trump says stop, it's over, we won, and the Israelis are like, no, we're not safe. The Israelis are going to keep going, and then the Iranians are going to keep going, and then what's going to happen? Then Trump's going to keep going.
Let's circle back to something Lydia Moynihan and Brad Todd said, or tried to say. Brad Todd, Pete Seat, John Tobacco, Wink Stinkelman. Some of these names sound like a bad sketch, yet these are the people shaping public defense policy. Real voices, making real decisions, and the stakes are literally life and death. Here's the real irony. They argue the president needs disciplined messaging, as if careful words alone could substitute for strategy, while simultaneously endorsing a unilateral war in the Middle East with no clear objectives. They paint it like, Iran's bad, they can't have nukes, so obviously war is necessary. What do you liberals want? Beat. But hold on, didn't we supposedly obliterate their nuclear program months ago? No, that didn't happen. Not even close. And then they claim U.S. and Israeli objectives are the same. Are they really? The truth is, there is no publicly defined goal, no exit plan, just escalating conflict. Trump took us to war in Iran, and the rest of us are left asking, what is the plan? How do you win a conflict if you can't even define what victory looks like? And the scariest part, he either refuses to tell us, or he truly doesn't know. Pause. Which is worse? This is exactly why democracy matters. Checks, accountability, debate. Because when one person holds the levers of war with no clear plan, the consequences aren't just political. They're human.
People on the ground who are getting killed, to be honest, they pay the civilians.
But if you are an American right now and Israel decides to keep fighting after America has shot, we are the ones that will pay for it.
Our inflation will go up and their children will die.
How about the 46 Americans killed on 10/7 by Iranian funds? Did they pay for it? The 46 Americans killed in Israel on 10/7, did they pay for it? They paid for it. They paid for Iran. There are 46 Americans there. There were 8 taken into captivity. They paid for the American politicians' tolerance of Iran.
Can I ask you, this is the second time you've talked about Americans dying. You just said 68 Americans.
46 Americans.
46 Americans. But here's the thing. We're spending, what is it now, $3 billion a day?
Are you putting a price on those 46 lives?
Here's what I'm going to say, so let me finish what I'm going to say, because obviously I'm not putting a price on those Americans' heads. What I'm saying is, you're saying 46 Americans died, so we should attack this country because they're a terror organization and we need to come and get them. I could tell you here at home, 68,000 Americans die a year because they don't have health insurance. So if we're going to spend billions of dollars on something, would it not make more sense to save American lives to spend it here on healthcare than bombing another country overseas?
It's the job of the United States government.
But what I'm saying is, if you're going to start saying American lives are specific, 47 people died, and this is worth going to war for, I would say 68,000 people die a year here.
And that look at the federal budget, by the way, you're looking at the vast majority goes to entitlements, Medicare,
the vast majority
Medicaid.
goes to the military budget.
Okay,
once you have a policy of eliminating all of our enemies, you're calling for a war on North Korea, China, Russia.
Okay.
And that is
I think the difference with Iran is that it's the largest
let's back away from we have to eliminate all of our enemies. No, we have to manage the threats with the resources that we have.
We have spent 47 years attempting to manage Iran with rhetoric.
Brad Todd and the other MAGA talking heads keep repeating, we've been mismanaging Iran for 47 years. But let's be brutally honest. None of this was inevitable. The Middle East is not a simple chessboard. It is a dense, tangled web of history, ideology, power struggles, and foreign interference that stretches back decades. Iran is a bad actor. Yes. Its regime has caused harm. Yes. But we cannot pretend we were mere observers. Our policies, our interventions, our rhetoric have all helped shape the environment that produced this regime. And now, with reckless escalation and unilateral decisions, we've only made things worse. You cannot change a nation from the air. You cannot bomb a solution into existence. Boots on the ground? That would be catastrophic. Yet somehow, in the logic of this administration, that seems inevitable, unless someone steps up to apply reason and restraint. Here's the moral shock. The same voices arguing that war keeps us safe are blind to the crises at home. Trillions of dollars spent abroad while hospitals crumble, roads collapse, schools struggle, pharmaceutical companies run unchecked, antitrust laws lie dormant, and ordinary Americans face impossible financial strain. Meanwhile, a handful of billionaires hold hundreds of billions of dollars each. Hundreds of billions. That is obscene, beyond comprehension, and yet society has become inured to it, numb. Somehow this is considered ordinary, acceptable, even inevitable. And let's not reduce this to money alone. This is about power, psychology, and the architecture of authoritarian leadership. A leader surrounded by yes men becomes untouchable. Those willing to grovel, flatter, and lick the boots of power do not challenge it, they protect it. Cabinet meetings become absurd theater, scripted applause, hollow praise, nodding heads, while nuclear launch codes, impulsive decisions, and the lives of millions hang in the balance. We're talking about a person who can authorize nuclear strikes at any moment, decisions that could reshape the world, yet makes them impulsively, erratically, and without accountability. Congress is bypassed. Rational deliberation is optional. Checks and balances are ignored. And the media, the talking heads, they normalize this chaos. They pretend it's safe, pretend it's ordinary. But it is neither ordinary nor safe. It is dangerous. It is catastrophic. And this is exactly why Leigh McGowan matters. She slices through the spin, exposes incompetence and cowardice, and challenges the illusion of control with calm, sharp precision. She holds power accountable. She reminds us that integrity, truth, vigilance, and moral courage are not optional. They are essential to democracy. Watching her is a masterclass in democratic responsibility, intellectual honesty, and the courage to demand accountability when the stakes could not be higher. Pay attention. Watch closely. Listen to the patterns, the contradictions, the omissions. Think critically. Reflect deeply. And ask yourself, what would you do if these decisions determined your life, your children's lives, and the stability of the world itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Debate, reflect, challenge assumptions, hold each other accountable, because democracy does not survive on obedience, spectacle, or fear. It survives on truth, vigilance, courage, and the collective will to act when it matters most. History is watching, the world is watching, and the choices we tolerate today shape the world we leave for tomorrow.